has a lot of twisty bends on it. Not big long straights, because anybody can throw a straight bowl, but you have to negotiate the corners.
You generally have someone back at the tip who is very familiar with the road and who is a calming influence.
Let's keep back there, look.
Further up the road, you will have another person standing legs astride, and he is basically like a target for the player, and the player is aiming to play the ball directly to the shore on the road to gain maximum distance from the shot.
The bowl fara, that's actually the curtain raiser for our championships. What happens there is the All-Ireland and Ulster and Munster champions from the previous season would all play against each other in a big tournament. We get to see our players, what way they've wintered. Have they wintered all right? Are they strong? Are they back? Have they been back training for a while? How they're bowling? And that gives us an indication as to how they may bowl in the championship. And people follow their man then throughout the championship.
I'll give 3 to 2 to score. I'll give 3 to 2 to score.
There's quite substantial sums of money wagered on the bullets. It's a gentleman's agreement when someone has a bet with you. Now, you may not see any money changing hands. Someone might just say, okay, that's a bet. You'll hear nothing more about that to the end of the score. Then you see the person who won getting paid out.
When I was a child at school here at the college, out on our Sunday walk, we usually had a priest along us. I stood watching the game and got mingled with the crowd and got so worked up with the excitement. When I looked around, all the other boys had disappeared. And I was going to run into trouble for coming back on my own to the college, you know. So that was my first encounter with the rowboat. Bowls came to Ireland from England and was especially associated with the weavers, so it was a game that was much played in Lancashire. Then when it came to Ireland, it was picked up by the Irish, and naturally it was very much associated here in Ireland with the weaving. The Callan Valley is dotted with mills, Scotch mills especially, and then right on into Armagh, where you had a mill at Angola and a mill down at Mill Row. So it's easy to see how it was part of the community life here. You can imagine how they would come out during breaks and have a game of bullets on the roads. All these little houses were grouped around the mill. And each had their own little culture. You would have got different teams, if you like. You know, you were from the upper end or the lower end. There were the Navan Street boys and the Mill Row boys. The road boys were the poor man's game. It was played by everybody, Catholics and Protestants.
It being Sunday, the road was pretty clear of traffic, but sometimes a car or bicycle would pass. Men from cottages along the way joined the crowd. The road was soon black with people. Finally, the books were closed at a figure never before equalled within the memory of the oldest man present, £225 a side. The throwers peeled off their coats. A coin was spun, and to mark the butt, a handful of grass was thrown down onto the road.
It didn't always please certain people. For instance, the churches. Gambling was very much associated with the bullets and the breaking of the Sabbath. Their very first mention of the game of long bullets is from the records of the Common Council of Londonderry. It prohibits the game of long bullets on the ramparts of Derry and a fine of 5 shillings. And that kind of attitude went on right on up to the 30s and 40s.
all the row fellows began hunching up their shoulders and clapping their hands together. Let's cut out the cawing and get down to business. Show us what the old row is made of. All his strength went into the throw. His face convulsed. He gave a gasping grunt, and the bullet left his hand like a rocket. A warning cry rang out, and those on the footpath scattered like blown chaff. The bullet mounted the path and skimmed along like a living thing. The din became deafening. It swelled like the tumult of a great storm-racked sea. People whistled, screamed, shouted hysterically, and tossed their hats in the air. Finally, it trickled to a halt and sat dead in the very centre of the road.
This stone has been placed here maybe 15 years ago to commemorate Joe McVeigh's fantastic feat. Joe played from Napa Crossroads to this point in 22 shots. And it's clearly written there for everyone to see, bowls folk and non-bowls folk alike. Their record has stood the test of time. The great McBarry, Danny McParland, Michael Toll, Harry Toll, they've all come and attempted to beat this record. Some have got very close. I know some have covered the course in 23 shots, but no one's ever made it in 22, and I would suggest no one ever will.
Your sport is built on the great players. Every young fella running around with a road bowl in his hand, he wants to be McMurray, he wants to be Michael Toll, he wants to be Eddie Carr, he wants to be Danny McParland. You know, just the same as children playing soccer wants to be David Beckham. What we decided to do in Armagh here to encourage the sport was to start a youth programme, to have a new generation of youth coming through, new road bowlers. And road bowling is all about timing. So the coaches here, what they're doing with their people here tonight is teaching them to run to the butt fast, to jump and to coordinate their jump with the swing of their arm, with their feet touching the ground as the ball is delivered. Now, that might sound simple. That's incredibly difficult to do if you have never done it. To have to learn how to encounter corners, how to play the shot round the corner to achieve the maximum distance. Now, to spin a bullet, it means that you're holding a bullet. When you're letting the bullet go, it's spinning out of your hand to the right, which means when it hits the ground, it's actually turning right. If you're pulling a bullet, it means that you're holding the bowl in your hand, and when you deliver it, it's coming off your index finger and it's turning to the left. There's a lad, and he's 6-year-old. He's throwing bowls here with people 14, and he's holding his own. Now, these are the people that's going to take our sport into the next century. These are the people that we're going to coach, that's going to play All-Irelands and win All-Irelands for Armagh. It's like anything else. It's a sport that's handed down from one generation to another in families. If you went around these people tonight, you'll find that their fathers and their forefathers all played road bowls.
A lot of the guys had him backed, and a few pound on him, and he come good with the goods. He come through with the goods and won. And my own experience was the best, probably the best day of my life. Oh, thanks, Dennis. I think I am through it.
Invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, you're all very welcome here tonight to our 2005 annual All-Ireland presentation. We've been treated to a fantastic weekend of top-class bowling.
Tonight, they'll be discussing the high points of the weekend. They'll be discussing, the great shots they played, the shots that they misplayed, and how that would have changed the outcome of the score. Our older people, they'll be comparing the ability of the young people to the ability of the great players years ago. We're a minority sport, so to be part of that minority sport, you're a very important person. And especially if you're a young person growing up with a bit of top